Hello, fellow early childhood educators. My name is Samantha Williams. Welcome to my presentation, COVID-19 Impacts Pre-K Class Teacher-Child Interactions. Fellow educators, the purpose of this training today is for us just to revisit the pre-K class framework, and we will revisit the emotional support domain and discuss the impact of COVID-19 on indicators and behavioral markers. This is part one of a three-part series. The pre-K class framework consists of three domains, and our domains or broad areas which categorizes teacher-child interactions. The broad areas are emotional support, instructional support, and classroom organization. The emotional support domain focuses on what are teachers doing to support students in the classroom socially and emotionally. Our classroom organization domain highlights the ways in which teachers manage students' behavior, time, and attention. And the last domain, which is instructional support, encompasses the ways in which we provide cognitive support for our students or increase cognitive development, and what is it that we are doing to enhance the language development of the young learners in our classrooms. The pre-K classroom assessment scoring system is comprised of 10 dimensions. Dimensions are a smaller facet of a larger whole. Each domain has its own set of designated dimensions. If you take a look at emotional support, you will see 4 dimensions for emotional support, 3 dimensions for classroom organization, and 3 dimensions for instructional support. For the purpose of today's training, we will revisit the dimensions that fall under the umbrella of the emotional support domain. Those dimensions are positive climate, negative climate, teacher sensitivity, and regard for student perspectives. The pre-K class framework consists of domains, dimensions, indicators, and behavioral markers. We are discussing the emotional support domain, and our dimension focus is positive climate. Positive climate includes 4 indicators. Those indicators are relationships, positive affect, positive communication, and respect. Take a close look at the behavioral marker. The indicator that has been extrapolated is positive affect, and the interactions that teachers must engage in include smiling, laughter, and enthusiasm. So, what is positive climate? Positive climate includes the warmth and respect and enjoyment. It encompasses what teachers are doing to ensure that our students are participating in classrooms that are warm, where there is respect that is shown among children and between the teacher and the child, and the students enjoy learning. And these interactions are communicated both verbally and non-verbally. So the purpose of this training is to ensure that we understand the impact of COVID-19 on indicators and behavior marker evidence. Take a close look at this slide and keep in mind that these are pre-COVID interactions. So what's different about teacher-child interactions now that we are in the middle of the pandemic? Well, social distancing protocols impact teacher-child interaction. Focus your attention on the indicator of relationships right now. Physical proximity has been impacted. Because of social distancing, we must remain 6 feet apart. So what will observers look for? They will look to see if teachers are given time and attention to students. They will look to see if teachers are moving around the classroom, and they will look to see if you are checking in frequently with your students. They will look for other behaviors. So what about shared activities? Well, students can't share pencils anymore. They can't share crayons. They can't share the blocks in the block center. And we have to be careful with other things in the classroom, such as paintbrushes and other instructional materials. So what's considered a shared activity during the time of the pandemic? If you read aloud to students and you engage children in puppet shows, these things are still considered shared activities even in the virtual environment. It doesn't matter if we are teaching students virtually or in person. When we read aloud and engage students in puppet shows, we are sharing activities. So, what about peer assistance? With regard to peer assistance, they will listen and look to see if students are showing concern for one another or if students are actually offering information to support and help a friend. Now that all the above mentioned indicators have been impacted, match affect may be impacted as well. Why? Match affect will be potentially impacted because of the use of face coverings, because of the use of face masks, face shields. Why? Because teachers may not be able to see the facial expression of students if in the event they are wearing masks. While masks are not required for pre-K students, some parents send students to school with masks on. So there's a probability that match affect will be impacted as well. Social conversation is ineffective. Continue to engage in wonderful dialogues with students in your classrooms and continue to show a genuine interest in their lives outside of school. So, colleagues, what indicator do you think has been impacted by COVID-19 under the indicator of positive affect? Well, you guessed it, it's smiling. We can continue with the laughter in our classroom. Students are so excited and they're happy and they laugh. We can continue with those interactions and we can continue to show enthusiasm for teaching and learning. But smiling has been impacted. Because of the face covering and we are mandated to wear masks, no longer can an observer see your beautiful smile, the positioning of your lips, and your beautiful teeth. So what will observers look for? Observers will look at your eyes, your eyebrows, your temples, yes, and your cheekbone to determine if you are smiling. The indicator of positive communication has been impacted as well. We can continue with verbal affection. We can continue to display those types of behavioral marker evidence or teacher-child interactions We can continue to engage in verbal affection and also providing our students with positive expectations. But physical affection has been impacted. No longer can we high five our students and smack hands. No, we can't touch hands anymore. Those interactions have changed. There are other interactions that observers will look for. So what are those interactions? Observers will look for thumbs up, air hugs, air high five, or air fives, clapping hands. They will also look for fist pumps and elbow bumps. The most important thing you need to remember about the indicator of respect is to listen. Listen, listen, listen. Teachers must listen to students, and students must listen to each other. Keep in mind that respectful language has not been impacted. We can still say, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, thank you, and please. The dimension of negative climate focuses on the frequency, quality, and intensity of a negative interaction. So what are negative interactions? Take a look at the slide and let's review. We cannot scream at our students. We do not want to yell at our students. We must remember to keep our hands off of other people's children and do not display interactions of sarcasm and disrespect. Also, remember that this dimension is scored in the reverse. While we want to earn a score of 7 for positive climate, a score of 7 for negative climate may warrant will warrant a conversation with the supervisor of early childhood programs. Teacher sensitivity encompasses the degree to which teachers are aware and responsive to the academic and emotional needs of all learners. Teacher sensitivity. We're going to take a look at awareness first, the indicator of awareness, and the behavior marker evidence, which is notices lack of understanding and or difficulties. The use of mask wearing may impact the teacher's ability to notice if a teacher is lacking understanding or is having difficulties. But there are other behaviors that we can look for, and observers will look for. Observers may look for body language cues, and some of those body language cues include slouching, raising hand, and if a student looks downward, and of course, if the child is lacking engagement in a specific activity. Teachers can also provide differentiated activities for students and spread their attention around the room. That is very, very important during the time of the pandemic. Now, if we take a look at the indicator of responsiveness, we're going to look at provides comfort and assistance. Social distancing has impacted our ability to provide comfort and assistance for our students. In the past, teachers have been able to hug kids and in some cases to ensure that students were comfortable in classrooms and we attended to their emotional needs. Teachers would actually pick up children and hold them. But because of social distancing, we cannot engage in those activities any longer. But there are other behaviors, and what we should do is verbally check in on our students. And we can also tell students to give themselves a self-hug, and they can engage in self-soothing activities such as taking deep breaths. And you may want to provide an area in your classroom, a quiet area where students can just sit and relax for a moment. And this will give and also provide opportunities for students to share their feelings. Students will enjoy sharing their feelings if we provide them with opportunities to share. Regard for student perspective captures the degree to which teachers support students' interests, their motivations, their points of view, and encourage responsibility and autonomy in their classrooms. Regard for student perspective, flexibility and student focus may be impacted now because we have strict health and safety protocols that we must adhere to in schools. And when we adhere to these protocols, it may actually impact shows flexibility and following the student's lead. So what Teachstone recommends is that we allow choice within the experience. For example, when students are standing in line for temperature checks, allow them to stand where they are comfortable. If students are standing in line for hand washing, allow them to freely stand in line. Also, if students are singing a song while washing their hands, give them an opportunity to choose the song that they would like to sing. So, another thing that we need to be very careful and cognizant of is if students are working maybe at the sensory table, or if they're working in the block station, and we have to interrupt their learning to participate again in a health and safety protocol, we need to tell those students, give them a choice. And when we give the students a choice on how they will return to work, it must be reasonable. And we may not have been doing this in the past, but it should also be related. So if when returning to work, remember to give the students options, but when you give them options, those options must be reasonable and related. Health and safety protocols may also impact the jobs that we give to our learners, the jobs that they participated in the past, such as maybe distributing art supplies, distributing handouts or pages, art materials, or other instructional materials may be impacted as well, because students cannot come in close contact with students anymore because of social distancing. So what we want to do is to give students jobs in the classroom that do not require personal contact. In summary, keep in mind that social distancing may impact indicators and behavior marker evidence. Keep in mind that wearing face masks may impact indicators and behavior marker evidence. Keep in mind that although we cannot physically touch our students, our students can still get air hugs, air five, and they can demonstrate fist pumps, and elbow bumps. And the last point to keep in mind is that while singing, there is a strong probability that the submission of airborne particles are being released in the environment. Thank you for attending my professional development session today. COVID-19 impacts on pre-K class teacher-child interactions. Don't forget to complete your assessment.